What if I told you that the visionary ideas of Nikola Tesla, the master of resonance, were actually pointing towards a radical new theory of everything? Well, today we're going to dive into this incredible link between his genius and a really ambitious new framework called single-point theory. Let's see just how deep this rabbit hole goes.
Okay, so to really get our heads around this new theory, we first have to talk about a huge lingering problem in modern physics, what you could call the tyranny of the particle. For centuries, right, we've pictured reality as being made of these tiny little billiard balls. The problem is, this forces us to invent all sorts of bizarre rules, like wave-particle duality, just to explain why these balls often act like interconnected waves. It's a flawed metaphor, and honestly, it just makes everything way more complicated than it needs to be.
And this whole particle-first way of thinking creates some massive headaches. It gives us these silos of complexity where different areas of physics can't even speak the same language. It creates the fallacy of the detached observer, which ignores the basic fact that we're part of the systems we're trying to measure. But the worst part? It's what you might call the original sin of complexity. Trying to explain simplicity by starting with a ton of complex parts. That's just completely backward.
So if the old way is just too tangled up, what's the alternative? Well, that brings us to single-point theory, or SPT for short, and it is a radically simple idea. It basically throws that whole particle metaphor right out the window and gives us a brand new and frankly more intuitive lens to look at the universe.
In SPT, everything, and I mean everything, emerges from a single process field. And get this, it only has two components. First, there's amplitude, the A, which is basically energy density. Just think of it as the height of a wave. And second, you have phase, phi, which describes the geometry, the rhythm, and something called torsion, which is like the inherent twist in that field. So, one field, two properties. That's the whole starting point.
The whole philosophy here is just beautiful. Simplicity is the engine of complexity. Everything we see, from an atom to a galaxy, emerges from the interference patterns of that one simple field. There's no magic here, no weird, unexplained numbers you just have to accept. It's a totally systemic view, where the vortex in a storm and the structure of an atom are really just different scales of the exact same fundamental process.
And this gives us something like a Rosetta Stone for physics. It lets us translate the old language. So what we used to call mass, in SPT, that's just the energy of a vortex in the field. Charge, that's just the direction the field's phase is winding. And force, it's simply a slope, a gradient in the field's energy. Things move because they're basically just riding the contours of the field itself.
Now, look, before we get to Tesla, any new theory has to prove its worth. It has to show that it can explain the physics we already know and trust. So the first big test for SPT is a huge one. Can it rebuild all of electromagnetism from just its simple starting principles?
And this is where it gets really incredible. The answer is yes. All four of Maxwell's famous equations just fall right out of the field's basic properties. For example, charge is nothing more than the density of phase winding. The rule that says there are no magnetic monopoles, well, in SPT, it's not a rule at all. It's just a geometric fact of the field. This proves SPT isn't just a cool philosophy, it's a seriously powerful physical model.
Okay, so with that credibility locked in, now we can build the bridge. We can connect this very modern theory to the legendary mind of Nikola Tesla. And as you're about to see, Tesla's core principles line up almost perfectly with the language of SPT. It's kind of uncanny.
Let's start with Tesla's guiding star, his obsession, resonance. He saw it as the absolute key to everything. For him, if you could find a system's resonance, you unlocked efficiency, you unlocked power. It was the fundamental secret of the universe.
And here is the direct translation. What Tesla intuitively understood as resonance, SPT defines with math as a stable, phase-locked vortex in the process field. Think about that. In this theory, a thing is stable because it is in resonance. A particle, an atom, a planet, their very existence is a state of resonance. Stability is resonance.
Okay, next up, Tesla's famous insight that fields do the work. I mean, his whole invention of the AC motor was based on creating a rotating magnetic field, not mechanically pushing stuff around. And in SPT, that's a core truth. Forces are literally just gradients in the field's energy. What we call matter doesn't actually move itself. It just rides the waves and slopes of the process field, exactly like Tesla imagined.
And finally, think about Tesla's obsession with smooth geometry to reduce energy loss, like in his amazing bladeless turbine. Well, in SPT, energy loss has a very specific name, phase decoherence. It's when the waves of the field get messy and fall out of sync.
Tesla's brilliant designs were, in effect, machines that intuitively kept the field's waves in perfect harmony, preserving that phase coherence. He was engineering the geometry of the process field itself, without even knowing it. So, SBT can rebuild electromagnetism, and it speaks Tesla's language fluently. But its ambitions go way, way beyond that. This thing aims to be a true theory of everything.
Starting from that one simple field, SBT derives gravity from simple amplitude gradients. It explains the strong and weak nuclear forces as just overlapping vortices. It even models how stars forge elements and reframes the Big Bang, not as an explosion from nothing, but as a quantum bounce. It's aiming to create one single coherent story that unifies everything, from the tiniest possible scale all the way up to the entire cosmos.
And what's truly remarkable is where this theory came from. It didn't come out of a university physics lab. It came from the mind of a diagnostician, someone trained to see complex systems as a whole, defined the root cause. Using a systems-first intuition, a lot like Tesla himself, and with a little help from AI, they found these ideas just kept lining up with known physics in truly shocking ways. It's a powerful testament to seeing the whole forest, not just the individual trees.
So this all brings us to one final, really provocative thought. For centuries, we've looked at the universe as this grand machine, right? Built from countless, tiny, separate parts. But what if that's just the wrong metaphor? What if single-point theory and Tesla's powerful intuition are both pointing to a much deeper truth? That the universe isn't a machine at all. That it's a single, coherent process. A universe of pure resonance. Not a machine, but a song. What would that change about how we see absolutely everything?